Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Hafner. I'm a career coach here in the CDO, otherwise known as the Career Development Office. Really thrilled to have you join us today. I've got a wonderful lineup of panelists here with me today. And I have a pleasure of speaking with three of them that I've worked with for the past 2 years and centered around my favorite topic of marketing. And so without further ado, I was hoping to do some introductions. And so Sammy, if you could kick us off with the introductions, that would be great. And then Prachi and then Michelle. And if you could let us know, where are you from? What did you study? And what did you do prior to SOM? Sammy?
Totally. Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie. So hi, everyone. My name's Sammy Maris. I'm originally from New York City. I studied history and French in undergrad. And prior to SOM, I lived out in San Francisco and I worked at an independent ad agency doing sort of brand and strategy work.
Great.
Cool. Hi, guys. My name is Prachi. I am from the central New Jersey area. Prior to SOM, I was studying economics and actually public health during undergrad. And I started my career working actually in the financial tech industry and had pivoted over to advertising technology before coming to SOM.
Great. And Michelle?
Well, thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle. And before SOM, well, I'm originally from China, and I came to the country 5-6 years ago. Before SOM, I studied in chemical engineering and more specifically in food science. So for the first 3 years of my career, I was in food product development and commercialization.
Awesome.
Very excited to be here with you.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, again for joining us. So one quick housekeeping item for those that are listening in today with us. If you have any questions at any point for the panelists that pop into your mind, please, at the bottom, there's a Q&A box. Feel free to put them in there. I do have a colleague who is moderating in the background, and she's going to pass on the questions to me. And we will leave some time at the end to be able to answer them, and I will ask the panelists your questions. So any questions that you have, please feel free to pop them right in the Q&A box, and we will get to them later. First, I wanted to share a little bit about the CDO. Again, the Career Development Office and how we kind of operate. So there's kind of two sides of the house. The first side of the house is the employer partnership team. And those are essentially the employer-facing team that help build, cultivate, maintain, grow relationships with employers that SOM students really want to work at. And on the other, and they are industry specific. So they work specifically in the industries that SOM students want to work in. On the other side of the house, I work in the coaching team, and the coaching team specifically serves students and are student facing. And we are industry agnostic. So we work, across different industries. So if you're traditionally recruiting for consulting or banking or tech or doing a niche search like fintech, education, foundation, we support all of it. And from beginning of matriculation all the way to the end of graduation and even beyond, we are here to support you to make sure that you're set up for success in recruiting at SOM. So that's just a little bit about how the CDO works. And I wanted to give you an overview of marketing, which is near and dear to my heart because that's what I did in my entire career. I think it's a really interesting place to be because it itself can be its own industry in the consumer packaged goods. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with names like Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, Campbell's, Kraft Heinz, Mattel, AB InBev. Those are all consumer packaged goods, and those are their own industries, and marketing is known as brand management. And a lot of those names that I shared with you are places in which SOM students have either interned or gone to recently full-time. But you could also do marketing as a function in different industries. So for example, you could go into tech. So you could work at Amazon or Google as a PMM, a product marketing manager. Or you could work in healthcare. So students have gone to Merck, they've gone to Teladoc, for example. Or you could do something really different and interesting in media and entertainment, like work at YouTube or the National Football League. So you can do marketing in a lot of different areas, and I think that's what makes it really fun. So we're glad to have you today and learn more about marketing through our panelists. So let's get to the questions to our panelists and go back to Sammy. Let's talk about, why did you choose to join SOM? What were the driving factors of what brought you here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, when I was thinking about my business school search, I knew I was ready to kind of return to the East Coast. So kind of first level geographically, that helped me focus. And then second, I was really looking for a school that I felt kind of fit me and wasn't necessarily going to make me fit a mold. I was really cautious about business school in the first place with sort of my liberal arts background and my marketing and advertising experience. Things like finance were very foreign to me. They are no longer, but I was just very cautious about picking a school that I felt was only going to turn out finance grads. So I was really focusing on breadth of curriculum and things like that. And I think what really sold it for me was when I came to campus for my interview, which was back like 2 weeks before the world shut down, before COVID. It was basically the last trip I took. And just being in Evans Hall and seeing all the students, which we're finally back to this year, it just felt so alive and welcoming and exciting. And I actually saw myself sitting in the like classrooms and I was like, oh, I actually see what this could be. And it just felt right. And so I was very excited when I got in.
Cool. What about you, Prachi?
Sure. I can probably echo a lot of the same things that Sammy said, but I think one of the biggest things that I was looking for, and you guys have probably heard this if you've attended other panels, but impact was a really big driving factor in my decision to come to SOM. I knew that I wanted to pivot into a role that allowed me to have some kind of social impact experience tied in. And, you know, the Anne Society piece at SOM really is real. So that was a huge factor. And I think the other big component was also just the fact that the program is really, truly very interdisciplinary. So, you know, you'll see that across your core courses. You know, a standard marketing class is not just a marketing class. You get lots of different perspectives woven in. And in your second year, you know, you're also allowed to start taking classes outside of SOM. So right now I have a really cool opportunity where I'm taking classes at the School of the Environment as well as SOM. So I really loved the ability to make your academic experience as holistic as possible. And again, tying it to that impact realm as well.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of students take advantage of the cross Yale courses and love it. So great point. Thanks, Prachi. What about you, Michelle? What brought you to SOM?
Yeah, I think one big reason that I decided to come back to school, not just SOM in general, I mean, it's I want to know more interesting people and really just to experience different things. And so I purposefully chose the school that had a smaller class size. So SOM has about 360-ish for our whole class, that you really get to know your classmates, know their family, know their favorite food. You get to build that truly meaningful relationship with them, not just knowing their name and say hi on the hallway. So I echo so much with what Sammy and Prachi mentioned. When I came here for the interview day, the vibe just really clicked and it just felt so warm and inviting. So yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. So maybe let me go backwards to mix it up a little bit. So starting again with you, Michelle, where did you intern this past summer and what are some of the career goals that you have after graduation?
Yeah, so this summer I spent my time with Mattel on their US marketing team. So basically I developed go-to-market strategies for one of their new Barbie dolls, which is super exciting, and managed two Barbie lines, basically tracking their P&L, their new social media campaign and stuff like that. And I think my after graduation career goal probably, actually I'm thinking about pivoting to the technology industry, but still doing the marketing function. Just because after working with Mattel, their long-term strategy is actually moving to the more IP asset-based digital business, moving from the physical toy world. So it's like technology is where the future lies, and I want to explore what other opportunities could be there. So yeah, that's me.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. And Prachi, tell us where you interned and what are some of your career goals after SOM?
Sure. So this past summer, I was interning at Campbell's Soup Company, which was a fantastic experience. I was working with the condensed soup team and building out a multi-pack innovation project. So I was really excited about that. It ties in actually fairly well with my long-term career goals. I'm really interested in product innovation within the sustainable food and beverage space. So was really testing out, different types of like sustainable waste reduction opportunities and just trying to get a better sense of the food and beverage landscape as a whole.
Cool. Thanks, Prachi. And Sammy, what did you do this summer?
Yeah, so I interned at Pepsi this past summer. I was on the sports marketing team, which is kind of a misnomer for my specific project, but I worked on a project thinking about how all Pepsi brands can leverage mobile gaming as sort of a new and emerging media platform. So it was not necessarily the traditional one specific brand type of experience, but instead I got to work across all different brands, which was really awesome and helped me get a sense of their just really incredible and vast portfolio. I'm so excited to be going back there after graduation. And I think a career goal of mine for post-graduation is just to really push myself and do something that is a little scarier than maybe I've done in the past. And I'm sure I will find that at Pepsi.
I'm sure you will too. Can you talk about each of you, starting with Sammy, some of the career resources that you found were really helpful?
Yeah, my number one career resource is Stephanie. This is not a sponsored ad, I promise. It's Stephanie. I just very vividly recall making a career office appointment on the website, getting on Zoom with Stephanie and being like, my life is, I don't know, and please help. And I talked about my past and what I came to an MBA for and where I wanted to go, listed out crazy fears, geographical concerns I had. And somehow at the end of 20 minutes, Stephanie was like, you're actually fine. You're going to be okay. And here's everything I heard. And we got it. We'll make a plan. We'll work together and this will be great. So I think honestly, my number one resource is Stephanie. Second, we have Marketing Club, which I'm sure Prachi and Michelle will touch on. So I don't want to kind of hit all the answers in just the first one. But they were a great resource and I was able to kind of make a lot of connections with second years and hear about their search and their process. And I found that to be incredibly valuable. I also had never really gone through formalized recruiting prior to SOM. And so that was something that was very, very new. And I think a combination of the CDO, different sort of programming that they offered, and then Marketing Club as well were really, really helpful in just helping me navigate that and understand how to best prepare.
Awesome. Thank you for the call out, Sammy. It's one of our biggest rewards to help and support students throughout. They're sometimes nerve-wracking, but very rewarding in the end process in their 2 years.
Definitely.
Prachi, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I got to echo a lot of what Sammy said, especially the plus 1,000 to Stephanie being the key resource. And I actually don't even know if you remember this, Stephanie, but at the very beginning of last year, I didn't even consider marketing really as a realm of a potential career path for me. And I had a conversation with Stephanie to kind of dive deeper into what does product management mean? Like, what does it look like across different industries? And that's how I figured out that like it's very closely tied to brand management within the CPG world. And that then opened up a series of doors. So, it's really useful leveraging those CDO just to get that idea of what the landscape looks like, as well as, your own personal kind of goals and how that fits into different types of career paths that could exist. I'm going to try to think of like different things outside of the clubs, which again are super useful. The second years are great resources generally. Within Marketing Club, they have case teams. So that was really helpful just for interview practice and, just getting a better sense of what different types of things other students have tried prior to coming to SOM or even during their own summers. And then the alumni network is just a great resource as well. Everyone's really friendly. People will go out of their way to, tell you about their roles, their functions, their companies. and really guide you throughout the process as well.
Great, Prachi. And that's a really great point that you bring out. I think some of the misunderstandings sometimes around marketing is that it's very executional when it can be very, very strategic and business oriented and can be the center of the business when you're playing a brand or product management role. So it is an important component of the entire overall picture. So great point that you bring up there. Thank you. What about Michelle? Some of the best.
Totally echo with what I said before. Thanks, Stephanie, for all your time and patience. But because I'm also a leader of the marketing club, I'm gonna just drop some plugs for the marketing club. So the club has a very developed curriculum. So we will cover from resume review, cover letter review, to different industry and company like a general intro. And then we will also have different speakers to come to the club event and give us different industry, their career stories or different industry descriptions, stuff like that. And like Prachi mentioned, we also have case prep teams. So you will work directly with second-year students to practice your marketing case interview skills. So yeah, that is something that I found super, super helpful. And besides second year and the broader SOM alumni network, your classmates from the first year is also going to be your buddy throughout the entire process. Don't feel afraid to just practice interviews and pass around your resumes with your classmates as well. It's, yeah, you will be surprised how helpful and how willing they're trying to help you.
Yes, I am always amazed at how helpful the second years and the student population in general are with each other. That's fantastic. I'm actually going to move now into the Q&A portion from our students. So please, those that are listening, feel free to jump in and add some of your questions. The panelists are waiting and eager to hear from you. So I'm going to start with the first one. And Prachi, I think I'm going to ask you this one, which is, can you walk us through the recruiting timeline for first year students? Just get a sense for what you do in the fall and then the spring.
Sure. So for marketing specifically, it can vary. So I think for a lot of larger firms, like some of the ones like Campbell's, for example, I can talk about, the recruiting process is a little bit earlier. So I think we dropped applications probably by like December or so. And then interviews happened in January, like end of January, and decisions kind of came out in the February timeframe. And you'll kind of see that pretty consistent across a lot of like larger CPG companies, some larger tech as well. But that being said, there's a lot of really great opportunities with some like smaller firms as well as startups and other industries outside of CPG, really starting from, I would say, like February onwards into the spring.
Cool. That's perfect. That's exactly, that's a great picture of how it happens. Most of it is the drops in the fall and then kind of the interviewing starting in the spring. The next question that I have is, I think I'm going to ask Michelle, since I think you're probably the biggest career changer of the three of us. Are any of the panelists career changers? I think, you with food science background are. If so, how are you transitioning and what resources does SOM offer?
Yeah, I think when you transition to a different position, you really need to go back to your previous experience and think what skills that you can bring to this new company, to the new team. Because a lot of things that are totally transferable. For example, I was doing product development, and for marketing, a huge part of their job is to work with design teams or to work with product teams. So for that part, I can totally bring the insights from the technical side of the business. And yeah, like talking to people from the roles that you are interested in and understand their day-to-day life, and then try to package your case in the way that you can bring immediate value to the company, I think that's what the recruiters are looking for. They don't really need someone to like have 3-4 years exact same experience for that specific role, but if you can show them that you have all the potential and you have all the transferable skills and you have the curiosity and passion to learn, and yeah, it won't be a problem. And the resource, I would say, the alumni network is the biggest resource. That's where I get to know what the roles are, what their day-to-day life. And one of the questions that I always ask during coffee chat is, what is the most valuable quality that you think will make a new employee be successful on the team? And they will tell you the specific things that they're looking for. And then you can tie that into your story and how to bring that to life when you talk to the recruiters.
Fantastic. Thanks, Michelle. And the questions are coming in. So here we go. We have a number of questions. So lots of people are interested. So Sammy, I'm going to ask you this one. How did you know that Yale was the best option for marketing? And it's probably best for you because you did agency before, so did marketing beforehand. And how do you think it stands out from other programs in marketing and in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it definitely was the best program for me. And I can speak to sort of my personal experience on that sort of line of reasoning. But I think thinking really critically for a second about the core curriculum that everyone takes in their first year, something really unique about Yale is we have this sort of stakeholder perspective mindset for all of our courses. So with the exception of maybe 4 courses that you take fall 1 right at the beginning of school, that are sort of your management basics, really getting that sort of strong foundation. Every other core course is not sort of as black and white as finance, marketing, accounting would look like. And instead, you're really taking a multidisciplinary approach, thinking about all the different things facing any particular stakeholder at one time. So for example, our marketing course is called Customer, and it's really focused on choices that customers see in market, but also the strategies that firms are undertaking in the background to sort of effectively reach those customers. So to do that, you're also thinking about sort of the competitive landscape of the industry, sort of the economics of the business, looking at 10Ks to understand what companies are defining as their industries and their competitive advantages, and then thinking also about how changing consumer behavior and changing just sort of consumer tastes is making that sort of whole interplay evolve at a really rapid pace. So I think for me, that was, again, coming from marketing and wanting to stay in marketing, that just was a really realistic perspective. I was a bit hesitant to kind of come into a classroom and put what I had been doing for the past few years of my career sort of into a textbook form. And I think I was really pleasantly surprised to see that that was not at all the case here at SOM. And instead, we were sort of faced with what we call raw cases. So you essentially go to this website that the professors have kind of curated, and they say, here's all the info. Give us your proposal. What's your recommendation? And I think the core skill really there is figuring out what's relevant and what's not relevant to making the point you're trying to make. And again, that just to me really simulated real life, because you're very rarely given a 5-page perfect brief. You're given the internet, you're given the New York Times, you're given the Wall Street Journal, Ad Age, whatever it looks like, and told to figure it out. And that's sort of how I felt sitting in that class. It was a really exciting way, I think, to add to the industry experience I had prior to SOM. One sort of plug, I think the second part of the question was resources, Stephanie.
Yeah. How do you think it stands out from other programs in marketing and in general?
So I only go to SOM, so I can't really say.
Yeah.
But I do know that the stakeholder approach really is unique and definitely does set us apart.
Yeah.
I also think we have some faculty that's just truly incredible, and obviously they also only work here. We also have a really exciting center on campus called the Yale Center for Consumer Insights, and they host a lot of speaker series that students can attend. And they also run sort of a class called Discovery Projects, which are really, really awesome sort of firsthand experiences. I'm happy to talk more about them, but I think that's just a very unique SOM moment.
Okay, and I'll come back to you because there actually is another question about marketing resources outside of SOM. So I'll be back.
Happy to chat YCCI.
I'll be back. So Prachi, I'm going to ask you this question. Can you talk a little bit about the SOM Alumni Network, which is fantastic? How accessible are they? Tell us about your experience with them.
Yeah, I mean, I had a really seamless experience working with the alumni network, honestly, and that was kind of how I found Campbell's. I was very focused in terms of looking at the food and beverage industry, and I was able to. We have a whole like alumni directory that you have access to, and you can filter based on industries, interests, a bunch of different things, and that really helps you pinpoint the types of people that you might want to talk to. And I found that I think almost every single person that I sent an email to responded, and they were more than willing to chat and, at least try to figure out if there was an internship opportunity, if there wasn't anything posted in the system. So people are really excited to talk to just, students that are currently here. And I would also say, in terms of like getting access to like the alumni network, aside from just utilizing the directory and kind of like doing the search yourself, there's a lot of great talks and panels and just events that are hosted that leverage alumni. So I attended, a bunch of different panel events, probably through Marketing Club and, some other clubs on campus. And that is another great way to just learn who's out there, what they're doing, and they're, again, more than willing to kind of dedicate their time to talking to you.
Yeah, I totally 100% echo that. And I tell students all the time that alumni are your best resource. In fact, I had a student that was very interested in working in Disney, and I looked up an alum. I'm like, here's an alum. Why don't you have a conversation? And lo and behold, they had their internship because of that alum. So it happens all the time. So certainly very, very supportive network. Michelle, we actually have, I think this is a perfect question for you. It's for international students. Can you talk a little bit about the career prospects for international students? I know you did a lot of recruiting, both in marketing, outside marketing. What are some of the international opportunities available pertaining to marketing specifically, but just in general?
Yeah, so inside marketing, if you want to focus on traditional CPG, I would have to be honest that it is challenging for international students. And one of the only exceptions is Mattel, which is where I interned with. I believe Kraft Heinz, they used to sponsor, but seems like no longer. However, the story is completely different if you want to be in the technology industry. So PMM, Product Marketing Manager, as Stephanie mentioned, they don't care about where you come from, and that's a great industry if you want to, if you don't want sponsorship to be the reason that stop you from getting into marketing. And besides that, consulting in general, they are very international friendly. I believe except for EY and all the other bigger firms, they would be sponsoring. So yeah.
Cool.
Just one quick thing is you might want to confirm with the recruiter if sponsorship is happening, and that will save you a lot of time. So last year I did continue to talk to PepsiCo and talk to different firms, and like the last round interview, they would ask me, do you still need a work visa in the end? And when I say yes, and that is when the process stops. So yeah, it will be save a lot of time for both sides. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let me go back to you, Sammy, as I mentioned, and ask you this question about, and lots of questions. So thank you, audience, for continuing all the questions. I have a whole list of them. So let's go back here for a second. What are some of the marketing resources across the university outside SOM that you have found to be beneficial?
Yeah, so I'm happy to take this moment and plug YCCI. So Yale has what they call the Center for Consumer Insights. And as I mentioned, they host speaker series. They actually have a lot of marketing faculty that also teaches at SOM, teaches electives and some of the core courses. So they are very integrated within our community, but also operate kind of across the greater Yale University space. And I think I started to hint at this. They offer a program for current students called Discovery Projects. And essentially what that is, Michelle and Prachi, I'm not sure if you guys have done them. So if you have personal experiences also, please hop in. But I'm doing one right now. And essentially you're placed on a team of about 5 students and you are consulting for a real company in the world with a real business problem. So I am currently working on a project for Petco, thinking about how they can better encourage like repeat and incremental shop visits in store, and also push grooming services sort of as like a cross marketing push. So it's a very sort of hands-on. We conduct primary research. We interviewed a lot of different pet owners, Petco shoppers, non-Petco shoppers alike, people who groom at Petco and big box, people who groom at specialty, got really sort of in the weeds of the data. And then sort of the second part of the project, which we're just doing now, is sort of putting those insights into practice. So we're looking at the current advertising and marketing that Petco is doing and saying how things that we found from our research might be able to improve that for them. So thinking about if they change their messaging sort of to focus on these key topics instead of those, or if they switched up imagery and things like that, how we can really drive measurable impact to impact their bottom line. So it's a really awesome experience. It's very, very practical. It is immediately sort of clear how it impacts sort of the real world and real companies. And it's definitely sort of, I think, one of my favorite classes at SOM so far.
Yes, all students rave about YCCA. So thanks for that. There's a lot of value to be drawn from that class. Michelle, I'm going to come back to you because you're a marketing club leader, and there are students that are interested in kind of what the marketing club covers. Is it mostly CPG? And how do you approach the intersection of marketing and tech? Can you talk a little bit about that? And then Prachi, I'm going to go to you after about your day-to-day internship experience. Michelle?
Yeah, so for marketing club, we're definitely across different industries. So we have CPG, we have students in second year, students in technology and healthcare, financial service. Remind me if there is anything else that I missed, Prachi and Sami. But the fundamental principles, I would say, it's very similar, even though that's across different industries. So we want to highlight that. And for case prep teams that I mentioned previously, we are trying to put the team leads more industry focused. So if you have a strong preference in certain industries, then you would be put into those teams for your case prep interview.
Yeah. So
what is the second part of your question?
No, is it just how do you approach the intersection of marketing and tech? I think the question is essentially, do you cover in the club beyond just CPG marketing and other types of marketing? And the answer is essentially yes.
Yes, and besides that, for our, we also host young alumni panels and second-year students from the interns with different companies. We will host panel sessions to talk about their experience as well. And in the beginning of each club weekly meeting, we will also cover the news from different industries, their new marketing or brand campaigns or their new moves. So yeah, we'll be covering different industries for sure.
Okay, great. I'm going to actually ask all of you this question because I think it's so different across all of you in terms of your day-to-day, because you worked on meals and food and beverage and sustainability projects, I think, Barbie projects for you, Michelle, and Sami, sports drinks. So like all across the gamut. So let's talk about, what did you do day-to-day? What do you do day-to-day as a marketer? And Prachi, I'll start with you, and then Sami, I'll move over to you.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm glad that you're asking everyone, because I was going to say it varies so much across like roles and companies and industries. But at least at Campbell's, I found that the brand management internship and just generally brand management at Campbell's is much more general management focused, which is something that I was looking for. So I was working on this innovation project throughout the summer and effectively was responsible for building out a strategy for a new multi-pack product that they were trying to get into market. So a lot of my day-to-day really varied. I think a significant portion of my project was first really involved in like data and analytics, which was kind of exciting to me because I actually come from an analytics background and I didn't think I was going to have to leverage it as much as I did. But I was, looking at customer data to understand how were they purchasing, condensed soup cans normally, and how does that behavior lend itself into creating a larger pack size. So, what data proves out the number of cans that you need, how big the size of the cans are, the flavors that you should include, all into one big thing. And then I was simultaneously also really trying to get an understanding of how the production process works. So I was talking to a lot of different people across the company, ranging from the sales team to like the packaging team to I can't even remember, the demand planning team, a whole host of people, to understand the full production process and what was actually realistic for what this product could look like. And because I am just personally very interested in sustainability and the environment, it actually wasn't supposed to be a core part of my project, but I made it a core part of my project in terms of really understanding, okay, what kind of packaging could we use? What would be the costs associated? And like, is this something really feasible for the company to put out into the market? So putting all that together, had a proposal at the end and was building out like P&Ls and stuff, profit and loss statements, to just prove that this could be something that they could do. So that's kind of a lot in just over a couple months, but something that I really enjoyed about it, and I'm sure Sammy and Michelle have similar experiences with the marketing function. Something that I was really surprised about was the fact that it was really holistic in really utilizing all of the classes that we went through in the first year. So I was doing stuff from finance to traditional marketing to competitive analyses, the whole gambit. So it was a really great way to just practice the skills that we theoretically learned.
That's awesome, Prachi, because you answered one of the questions the students had. Can you tell us about your internship and how the integrated core curriculum helped to prepare you? So that's exactly how it did. If you could speak to that, Sammy and Michelle, please do. So Sammy, what'd you do this summer? Tell us about the day-to-day.
Yeah, definitely. So I think kind of echoing Prachi, it definitely depended sort of on what part of the project I was in at any given time. But I think the one word that probably like sums it all up is cross-functional. I don't think I ever spent one day not meeting with someone on another team in another department at PepsiCo. And I honestly am so grateful for that, because I would have probably gone very crazy alone, staring at my project all day. So I think I basically started by doing a landscape analysis of mobile gaming. I am not personally a mobile gamer. I'm not a real hardcore gamer either. So I had a lot of learning to do. So I would say I probably spent the first sort of 2 weeks just orienting myself on the space, the landscape, and sort of how PepsiCo is already playing in the space to understand what's working well and what they're trying to extend and do differently, thinking about just like a new media platform and a new iteration of gaming for them. PepsiCo plays pretty heavily in hardcore gaming. They have a couple of brands that are like really, really targeted at hardcore gamers, and they do integrations in video games and things like that. All of this was very foreign to me. So I had to learn sort of the ropes behind that. Something that I'm really grateful for about my project is I had a lot of external exposure as well. So I met pretty regularly with gaming developer partners. So I was meeting with teams from Zynga, King, EA Games pretty regularly, because they were really, really helpful to me in my project. So it was really awesome to sort of be able to hold a meeting and say, hey, I'm working on this. I am, for all intents and purposes, a member of the PepsiCo team. So we are an important advertiser to you, like, please help. And it was really great to sort of have that experience. I also was able to work with some of their agency partners, which was fun for me, just being sort of on the other side of that experience and relationship. It was something I really wanted to get out of a summer internship and sort of my ultimate long-term marketing role. So I would sort of highlight those key moments. And then similar to Prachi, it sort of did all kind of come into this big presentation at the end. And looking back on that, it really did include everything from creative. I was in Photoshop myself doing some things because I just want to, and I like doing things like that. But it also included finance. It looked at sort of incremental sales that I thought I could drive from different types of programs. I provided different investment level options and talked about how each different sort of game made sense for different types of brands. And then sort of on a more potentially academic note, I created a framework because MBAs love frameworks to really help PepsiCo leverage this beyond my summer. So I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that I did over 10 weeks and my manager was happy with. And he was like, great job. I wanted it to be something that he actually had to work on after I left. So I really focused on making it actionable and easy to pick up without me sitting there right beside him. And so whenever I check in on him, he always says how much work I gave him. But I think that's the sign of a good project. So I think that's how I would sort of sum it up.
Cool, Sammy. Thanks.
Yeah.
Michelle, tell us about your summer and what you did day to day.
Yeah, so my day-to-day over the summer can be basically grouped into 3 different projects. So Mattel gave us a group project. The company puts all the interns from the same class into different teams and then assigns very, I would say, highly visible projects that the companies are mostly interested in developing to those different groups. And so basically my team develops this business plan to utilize Monster High as another fashion doll brand that Mattel is trying to relaunch, to utilize their brand assets to develop an experiential program and then drive revenue. So basically everything from market size estimation, the business plan operation execution, and later on financial estimation, the whole thing. And then the second part is my personal project, which I work directly on the US marketing team. That's where I developed the go-to-market strategy for the Barbie doll. And that is really the real life application of the customer class and a lot of marketing classes as well. So how you utilize 4P, how you identify the disapparition, give me the word. Okay, I cannot think of the word.
Depreciation.
Thank you. To find the target and then to find the storytelling behind a new product. And then the third part is basically what a actual associate marketing manager gonna do after graduation. So you will monitor specific lines. Exactly like Sammy and Prachi mentioned, cross-functional work is gonna be your day-to-day. So you will talk to the design team, the digital engagement group, financial team, fulfillment, demand forecast, and of course your retail partners. And then really become a general manager of your specific product that you are managing. So yeah, that's basically what I did over the summer.
All right, cool. I'm going to ask you each quickly, what was your favorite class so far at SOM? Prachi?
Oh, that's tough. Well, right now I'm in a class called marketing strategy, actually. And it's fantastic. The professor is just fantastic, Ji Woong Shin, and he is just so enthusiastic about the subject. He knows so much. He's done a lot of cool research in the area, and it's a very case-based class. So he pulls out some really interesting case studies, just understanding like how companies have responded in terms of like the competitive landscape across a variety of industries. So that's a really cool class. It's an elective right now. Highly recommend. He's
Cool.
awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Prachi. What about you, Sammy?
Definitely +1 on marketing strategy. I'm also taking that right now, and it's great. The cases are really interesting. I think my favorite class is one I actually took last quarter, and it's called Patterns in Entrepreneurship with AJ Wasserstein. And I really liked it because I think I obviously love the marketing world, and I know I'm headed there after graduation, but it was a really helpful class just for me to think about maybe how I'm able to use that to propel myself to the next thing after PepsiCo, which I'm not planning my exit. I'm not even there yet, but just sort of thinking about how I'm envisioning a career and my personal life sort of into the future. I thought it was a really helpful class to just think a bit critically about the skills that you're getting both in your MBA, bringing to the table, and then with whatever sort of career path you're taking after. It was really awesome to think about how I could apply them and potentially be an owner of my own business one day.
Yeah. Awesome. Long-term planning. Nice. and Michelle, I'm going to ask you your last your question, your favorite class, sorry. And then I'm going to ask you the last question. Sadly, I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun, but we're running to the very end. We got to as many questions as we possibly could. There are a lot of questions we actually didn't get to. So people were really excited to learn stuff from you. We just ran out of time. So Michelle, I'm going to ask you your favorite class, and then I'm going to ask all of you the last question about kind of what you wish you would have known. So go ahead, Michelle. What was your favorite class?
Yeah, I think this class, SOM, is also marketing very hard. It's called GSE, Global Social Enterprise. So the class is getting students to work directly with a social enterprise from a developing country, and really it's like a consulting project, and then working with a partner or your client hand to hand, and then find their biggest business challenge and give your actionable recommendation. And a lot of times, their struggle ties to marketing, how they can grow, how they can find the right customers. So that's really the hands-on experience to really use everything you learned to do a marketing project in the social impact world, which is also very fascinating to me. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. Last question. So if you were to think about yourselves prior to coming to SOM and applying to all of your business schools, what do you wish you would have known? What kind of advice would you have for candidates who are in the throes of applications to business school? What do you wish you would have known while you were applying? So, Sammy, I'm going to start with you, then I'll go to Prachi, then Michelle.
Yeah, I actually think a lot about this question, which is sort of maybe strange, but there's a lot of reflection in the whole MBA process, so perhaps not that strange. I think I wish I was just a bit more confident in my own story. I think I spent a lot of time thinking about if there is one particular story or a set of particular stories the admissions office is looking to see. And the answer to that is a resounding no. They want to hear your story, and there's only one of you, and that sounds really cheesy, but is true. And I think sort of having 2 years of perspective, spending time in this community, I think that's exactly what makes this community so rich and exciting and inviting, is that everyone has their own story that brought them here and their own story that they want to keep writing after here. And I think if everyone kind of came in with the same 3 different profiles, we would not have the same community that we have.
Great. Prachi?
I would actually just echo that. I think just understanding, like what's driving you to business school, why SOM specifically, and how that kind of fits into your overall journey is really important. And for me, something that I think as I'm, starting to come to terms with okay, what specifically am I trying to do post-grad? It's useful for me to actually go back and look at my old essays, to use that as a way to ground myself, to really remember wait, no, the reason I came here was because of this. So I think just, being as authentic as you possibly can as you're crafting that narrative is really important.
Fantastic. And Michelle, last but not least, parting words of the hour.
Yeah, I think for me personally is something I would have done differently is never set any limits to myself. I mean, any kind of limit. So think the 2-year business school as just an experience, not just a very short term, you want to find a job right after. But it's like when you're 70, 80 years old, when you're looking back, hey, that 2 years are so fantastic. So when I applied, I only applied on the East Coast because my partner is here. And I thinking back, maybe I could have explored some schools all over the country or even around the world. So that is something maybe you guys want to think about.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, all of you, for all of your time today. And you clearly shared a lot of wisdom and lots of good nuggets to chew on because there were so many questions that we didn't even get to all of them. Thank you for your time. It's been wonderful. And thank you for all of you who are joining with us today to hear about marketing here at SOM. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to the admissions team, and hopefully we will be able to see your faces on our campus in the near future. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great day.